Hey everybody, welcome to the VR Report. Today, we're diving into what will make the metaverse as valuable as real life. Imagine a world where we live, work, and play digitally, just like we do physically, except here you've got superpowers. Pretty cool, right? But here's the catch. For the digital universe to hold real value, we need something rare, true ownership. That's where blockchain comes in. Blockchain is really the DNA of the metaverse. It's what makes every digital plot of land, every neon lit costume unique. It's like owning a one of a kind pair of kicks in a world of endless copies. You stand out. You hold value. So as we hop from one digital world to another, like surfing or scrolling through web pages today, SuperWorld is all about turning this vision into reality. SuperWorld allows you to own digital real estate, and the vision is to then explore your own digital properties in XR. Friends, meet Hrish Lotlikar from SuperWorld.
The VR Report podcast with David Gino.
Hrish, how you doing, man?
It's great to be here.
Fantastic. Hey, so what are you doing now? What's going on with SuperWorld, especially all the new movement regarding the XR space with new headsets coming out, and also with new announcements with blockchain. Before getting into it, do you want to give a quick intro and share with everyone your origin story?
Yeah, sure. And thanks again for having me on. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you and speak with your audience. So thanks so much. So quick origin story on me. I'm first and foremost, I live very nomadically, live around the world, been doing that for a very long time. I'm American, grew up in the United States, but have spent a lot of time kind of living all over the place. My background, just to kind of give you a little bit on that, I started off my career in management consulting. I did investment banking on Wall Street in New York. I was at UBS Investment Bank and HSBC Securities. Started off in real estate investment banking of all places, in the physical real estate market. I joke around and say physical real estate because I didn't know at the time that one day I would help create the category of virtual real estate. But we're working on that at SuperWorld. Got into venture capital in New York. Worked for a well-known investor named Adam Stern, who's one of our investors at SuperWorld. Learned a lot from him, and then had this idea about 14 years ago to start a venture capital fund somewhere in the emerging markets. Took me out to Eastern Europe. Back in 2009, traveled to Ukraine, Russia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Moldova. Ended up starting a venture capital fund in Ukraine, backed by a big investor named Viktor Pinchuk, which is the largest online tutoring marketplace in the world. Also on the board of Tech Minsk, which is out of Minsk, Belarus. The company that Facebook acquired that does all of the AR filters for Instagram and Facebook is a company called MSQRD. They went through Tech Minsk and got acquired by Facebook. So I had early exposure to augmented reality through that. And then after that was the first biz dev early employee at TopTal, which is a A16Z company. Learned a lot about platforms. And then prior to SuperWorld, co-founded Rogue Initiative Studios, and that's when we met. Which is a film, television, gaming, and VR studio in Los Angeles. And then we saw Pokemon Go come out about 6 years ago, really inspired by that. And my co-founder, Max Woon, and I co-founded SuperWorld. So that kind of catches you up from my origins.
That's super fantastic. You have a really unique background where the name Superworld really encapsulates your journey of exploring the world, but also exploring the world through the lens of tech. Let's talk specifically about the XR integrations of Superworld. Superworld, of course, is this metaverse where people can purchase real estate and do it with whatever they want, and you have this big vision of how XR, between virtual reality to artificial intelligence, how that would actually be part of SuperWorld. Can you share how you envision the integration of XR technologies into SuperWorld and what unique experiences users can expect?
Yeah. The vision of SuperWorld is, how can we build a virtual world that enhances people's real lives, their physical lives? and how can we all build a decentralized virtual world that enhances Earth and improves, enables us to enhance humanity. So it's a very, very big, bold vision. And, I think a lot of us who are in the technology business and are in and around technology or inspired by technology, we want to create this amazing future and this very positive future with the technology, and that's what SuperWorld is really about. Is how can we integrate technologies like immersive technology, VR, AR, MR? How can we integrate Web3, NFTs, decentralized finance, decentralization in general, and artificial intelligence to create a world where people can utilize these technologies in their real life, in their personal life, in their business life, whether it's to build a livelihood for themselves. We see what's happening with the creator economy. We're all becoming creators. Can you utilize this technology in ways that are going to transform how you can connect with your audience, right? In real world locations using immersive tech or using AI or other things. Can you have ownership of the space around you utilizing Web3? And can you authenticate that content and allow easy transactions globally utilizing, cryptocurrencies and other things? And so I think the confluence of these technologies is giving us this huge opportunity, and SuperWorld is a way for all of us in the mainstream to provide a gateway to get into these technologies, and that's what we're so inspired by.
That's fantastic. You had worked at Rogue Initiative Studios closely with Michael Bay, one of the most famous or popular movie makers of our time, focusing on high energy, high action. How was your experience working on VR experiences with Michael Bay influence SuperWorld?
The thing that I learned from co-founding Rogue Initiative is that a Michael Bay movie and a Call of Duty game are really the same thing, right? Whether you're talking about an interactive game or a VR immersive experience or a linear, piece of content like a film in the theater, what you're talking about nowadays. If you're talking about, a movie like Avatar or Transformers that Michael's known for, or James Cameron's Avatar, any of these, these movies that we all love, they're really, incorporating, so much CG and special effects, and really all of these, pieces of content are built in engines, Unreal Engine, Unity Engine, you name it. And the point is that we can now have the opportunity to build any type of content, whether it's linear, interactive, or immersive, in those same engines. And you can, lower the cost of creating content because you're able to create assets in an engine that would have cost, thousands or millions of dollars to actually kind of build a whole movie, and you can reduce the cost of content creation, which means on the economic side, you can lower risk in terms of making a movie or a game or a television show. And then ultimately what that also means is that you can be very organic in creating franchises that are meant to be globally marketable, as well as you can build a universe from day one if you plan it right. I think the real lesson is that we've historically have seen franchises arise from the success of either a movie or a video game, which then results in the producer or the creator then branching out into these other mediums, whether it's if a movie does well, then maybe they'll make a video game as more of an afterthought, or if the game does well, they'll make a movie. And the quality of the offshoot might not be as the same quality of the original. And so what we kind of realized at Rogue Initiative was there's an opportunity if you bring the right people together, like Michael Bay and others, to really build something that was globally marketable, that has elements that can build a whole universe, from movies to game park rides and merchandising. And you could do it in a way that really kind of manages that risk, of the capital required because of the cost reductions in building in an engine. So there's a lot of interesting things there, in the business model of Rogue Initiative. And as we think of SuperWorld, SuperWorld is a world, and it really incorporates all of these things, whether we're talking about entertainment content or we're talking about educational content or we're talking about content that's user generated, for education or for a business on the marketing side or advertising, you name it. When you're using an engine, the engine analogy goes across, not only the entertainment medium that Rogue Initiative works on, but literally any way you can interact with the world around you, right? And that's what's really exciting about it. And so that's kind of what I learned from that experience.
That's fantastic. And I love the way you painted that thread in regards to the value of real life and how that threads digitally and hence the metaverse. You're really focusing on having a platform with this base value around real estate, virtual real estate. What do you see as the future of XR in the realm of digital real estate and virtual land ownership?
Yeah, so the way that we think about virtual real estate at Superworld is, first and foremost, what we want to do is create a way for super citizens, as we call them in Superworld, to be able to have digital property rights, to be able to become a stakeholder on the platform, and to be able to have this kind of geospatial ownership of Superworld in specific locations that are important to them. So, what we see in terms of our user behavior is that when someone comes over to Superworld, and whether they're excited about immersive technology or Web3 or AI, or just excited about the future, the first thing that they do, even if they don't completely understand how they're going to use those technologies, they know where they're from. They know where they have a business. They know places in the world that are important to them, right? Because we all do, right? And they come and they buy those places. They acquire those places. Each one of those is a geospatial media asset covering Earth. Each one's about $85 in today's prices. So they're all very accessible, which is very important to us, right? And so you can come over, you can acquire those places, and then the next thing, now guess what? Now they have a wallet, and now they have crypto, right? And now the next thing they ask us is, how can I use immersive technology? How can I use AR, VR in my business? How can I use this in my personal life? How can I use this to support a philanthropy that I'm a part of or a mission that I want to accomplish, right? And so the beauty of this is that we're serving as this gateway. For immersive tech, it could be for NFTs or Web3, or it could be how can I use AI, right? So we've served this as gateway. And as it relates to immersive tech, we've also created a platform in Superworld that is one cross-platform. So we're built on Apple, we're built on Google, we incorporate Eighth Wall, we can incorporate Oculus. We're very open, and a big part of that as well is we want to be very customer-centric. So if you want to create something in AR, we got you covered. If you want to create something in VR, you can do that as well. You can use any headset. And so ultimately, the way we think about it is Superworld is this open platform where you can add content in real world locations, and the type of content is really open to what you would like to do. And also the type of software, whether it's Unity, Unreal Engine, AR Kit, AR Core, Eighth Wall, Oculus, you name it, right? Ultimately, think of it as a map on top of the real world where people can discover immersive content.
And it'll be easy as what, sharing a link where then now I can, if I wanted to build a VR experience around my, virtual stadium that I had purchased, and I wanted to have like some games that would be presented, but I want people to see it in VR or in AR. How is that integration, and how am I going to be able to integrate that technology and also be able to share it to my users?
Right. So there's a few ways that we've kind of thought through that. So first of all, SuperWorld is often thought of as an augmented reality world, and the reason for that is, again, we're mapped on top of the real world. So there's this kind of real world focus. But as I mentioned, the type of content doesn't have to be, definitionally augmented reality. It could be anything. So on the AR side of it, again, we are utilizing ARKit and AR Core and eighth wall technologies. And so that's really about uploading content and then visualizing it either in mobile AR or utilizing web AR, because we're also on the browser, and that's kind of the main place that we've been focusing this year. But then on the VR side, yeah, you can add a link to your content, link of your content in any real world location, and then move over to a VR headset. And again, the reason we kind of went this way is that we want to make it really open, so anyone can utilize SuperWorld to discover immersive content and to discover the world around them in a way that's really based on what's best for them. Some people don't have a VR headset yet, and they might want to listen to audio while they're on a walk, right? So we want to make it is advancing, which again, we're seeing so many advancements, and we're very excited about Apple Vision Pro coming out next year, and Oculus is doing an amazing job as well in advancing the technology. Some of those things are going to become more tighter integrations into the platform. But at the moment, anytime we see something coming out, it's as simple as adding a link as well.
I really like that accessibility factor. I really love the idea of mirroring the real world. I spent some time in the blockchain world. I really am a believer in digital ownership. I went into blockchain because I believed if a metaverse was to truly exist, there needs to be interoperability and true ownership of digital assets, because why would you want to be a renter your whole life? But NFTs recently have become a four-letter word. Like, your Bored Apes that you just paid, over $100,000 last year is now worth half the price. But at the same time, I still believe in the technology. How do you think digital items such as NFTs play a pivotal role in the SuperWorld's ecosystem? And what opportunities right now do they offer to your users?
Yeah, it's funny about the kind of the interest around NFTs really peaking in 2021, early 2022, and then kind of now, as you said, having a big drop off in interest. We've been in the NFT space since 2018. And I remember when we started with NFTs, I couldn't mention NFTs either. Back in 2018, people thought it was, it's like people just associated with CryptoKitties, and which we loved as well, as a great example of how those things could be used. But people didn't understand them, and then I think it just got really hyped up, and everyone was doing NFTs for a while. The core technology is still the same, right? So we really believe in the technology to add a tremendous value to a virtual world like SuperWorld. Now, if you think of centralized worlds or games, the issue there is that people spend a lot of time and energy in one of those environments, and if over time the developer publisher stops supporting that, or ends up just shutting it down, all of that time and effort can go to waste. And essentially, the NFT and decentralized approach to building decentralized applications is the idea that we want users to be able to have not only ownership of those assets, but to have those assets be immutable, and that time and energy that is spent will always be accretive to those assets, right? And that's why it made a lot of sense for us to build SuperWorld in a decentralized way, because as you said, we're building in a real world location, and part of what makes a real world location very valuable is over time there's history there, right? Whether it's history that's personal, you get married somewhere, or you meet someone somewhere, or you have a business somewhere, or somewhere becomes a tourist attraction, or the place where they, launch the next rocket, whatever it happens to be in the world, these places, this history is accretive. And so by creating NFTs in the virtual real estate ecosystem in SuperWorld and having those structured as NFTs, there's an obvious reason to do that, as well as kind of the decentralized ownership of that. So when you own SuperWorld now, it's your decentralized ownership of that location in SuperWorld, the 0.01 longitude latitude location on Earth where that is. And then, again, if you're a content creator, we also want you to have that authenticity of ownership, the provenance of that piece of content that you've created, be able to frictionlessly buy and sell that piece of content as well, and to, again, benefit from all of the other, aspects that come from having this like decentralized, leisure technology, and having that be very publicly known in terms of ownership and things like that. So
Yeah,
that's where they come into play.
that's cool. I think the real world utility of being able to share that fractional ownership of a real estate, and then being able to share that with others, almost like a social network to share what you own, and based on what you own, it tells a little story about you, is going to be very important. I learned this early on working with the Crypto Kitties guys at Dapper Labs with Rohan. Like, the reason why Crypto Kitties failed was that there was an endless supply of these cats. And that was the problem, is that they weren't valuable when there's, just too much of an abundance. How are you controlling that so that value doesn't disappear when there's just too much of that product?
Yeah, so on the virtual real estate side of what we're building, there's 64 billion properties in SuperWorld, right? That's it. It's point zero one longitude latitude covering Earth, and again, that's the whole planet. And so whether you're talking about Manhattan or Los Angeles or San Francisco or any of the places in the world that we think about, the beauty of locations on Earth is that if you're from San Francisco and you meet someone who's from Bali, Indonesia, you're probably going to have maybe 3 or 4 places that are on the top of your list that are in common between you both. But there's probably about 7 other places that you each have that you actually both don't even know exist. So this person's high school is important to them, while as for you, maybe where you grew up or where you spent time is very important to you. And so what we see on the real estate side is, one, there's the limitation of there's only one place on Earth for every location, but also that every location is interesting to someone for some reason. And the reason could be, present day or even historical, which I always find very interesting. And each one of those reasons has this amazing story behind it. And that's very exciting too, which I can tell you more about.
That's cool. Yeah, I would love to learn more. And for me, my personal thesis is, I read Kai-Fu Lee's book, AI Superpowers, and Kai-Fu Lee had brought Google into China. He wasn't successful, but the attempt was there. He worked at Google and a plethora of other really tech giant companies. He's now an advisor and also an investor. But Kai-Fu Lee wrote this book, AI Superpowers, that really made a big difference in my life. He said, hey, AGI is coming, and we as a society, as humans, will have to figure out what's next for us. And he laid out kind of an idea, which was people are all going to be helping each other in the future and doing things that are more human, because everything that we perceive as jobs and work will be taken over by AI. And I never thought of that as a dystopian thing. I felt like that's great. That means people will be able to do things that they love, like gaming and maybe being an influencer or talking about XR. And I really do believe that digital and AI, all these technologies are converging with XR so we can have those opportunities to live in the society, almost like a utopia. You also have a live to earn concept with SuperWorld. Can you explain what the thesis is on that?
Yeah. So, I think that there is a very popular concept, play to earn. There's different variations of that, which really, again, just to summarize, you play a video game, you get points, and with crypto now you can cash those out and get, fiat. And, some people have already started, making livelihoods from playing a video game instead of doing maybe what their regular job would be, like in the Philippines or something like that, as an example. The idea of live to earn is the idea of how can we take those same mechanics, tokenomics, et cetera, and think about that in relation to our real lives. Our physical lives, physical or virtual, but again, more into how do we bring that into the physical world, and how do we basically incentivize users to be able to do what they love. You mentioned it. AI is going to, slowly creep into potentially a lot of professions, and whether you're not already, you're going to have to start thinking more entrepreneurially, and it probably behooves you to, either become a creator or do something that is, AI proof, right? And creativity is one of those areas that we think that, humans can really add a lot of value to, even if it's AI assisted. And so with that thought, the idea is, what if you could bring tokenomics into the everyday lives of people and enable them to benefit from things that they do, the things they want to do, things that maybe they already do, and to be able to benefit from that. So can we get Nike to, incentivize those that want to run a marathon, or Bacardi to incentivize you to go to one of their events, or, an airline company like they do already to make you take a flight, right? It's a loyalty program. And so, there's aspects of this already happening, and, Starbucks is doing it, and others are already getting into the web usages of this. But our idea at SuperWorld is, how can we really create a system, because we are a virtual world, that really bring all those things together. And that's our focus, is how can we enable people to do what they love?
That's super cool. I think the Nike example is great, because there are this whole genre of games called move to earn, where it's tracking how many steps you do, and based on that there's a tokenomic system involved where you're getting rewarded. And I really do believe that's the future. Have you looked at other geospatial mapping technologies and how that would coincide with SuperWorld? Like, of course, there's Niantic Lightship, where they have an SDK of you exploring the world. They already have the mesh data where people have been playing Pokemon and capturing the world in a sense while they're capturing Pokemon. There's companies like Immersal. There's a company in Japan called Styly. What, based on your background in geospatial mapping, how do you think that's going to influence SuperWorld's metaverse?
Yeah, this is a great question. So again, back to the vision of being very cross-platform, the beauty of this is there are a lot of advancements with mapping technologies, and we're built on a variety of them, right? So we're integrated with Mapbox, integrated with Google Maps, we're integrated with Bing Maps. We're integrated with VPS, Lightship, ARDK, with Niantic. We're using Eighth Walls technology. So again, our vision is, as these technologies advance, as these maps get better, we're all in on all of those technologies, and we want to leverage the best of what's coming in terms of geospatial mapping, and enable customers and enable super citizens to use those technologies to better pinpoint, to better create persistent content, to better understand and contextualize their surroundings. And so yeah, as that stuff gets better, it's going to be in SuperWorld, and we're already doing that in many ways.
So fun, Hrish. You're always on the go, doing presentations. I always check you out at different conferences. Can you share some insights of what's coming up next in terms of where people can find you or conferences you're attending related to SuperWorld?
Yeah, we're partnered with When Worlds Collide, which is happening in Abu Dhabi at the beginning of December, and corresponds with the F1 happening there as well at the end of November as well. So you can find us there, and I'll likely be at CES coming up as well. We had a really awesome presentation there last year with Accenture that you can probably find online. But I am super accessible, very open. So if anyone wants to reach out, again, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram, etc. But always happy to spread the message of what we're doing. It's a very global vision. So again, the mission is how do we enable people to get to know the world around them and get to be able to participate in it and own it, and so for us, being around the world and being accessible is very important. So very much part of our mission.
Fantastic, Hrish. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.